With WWE 2K23 seemingly right around the corner, there are a few things that we're hoping will be changed from 2K22's MyGM mode. The return of MyGM was initially great, and it was a bunch of fun to be able to play the old mode that everyone loved back in the day. But pretty soon after launch, it became apparent that the mode needed a lot of work to get back to the level it once was. So this video will be going over everything we want to see in WWE 2K23 MyGM mode so it can fully live up to its huge potential. The first thing that I believe needs seriously addressing is the disappointingly small amount of match types that you could choose from in 2K22. You only had the option of putting people in a 1v1 or 2v2, which was seriously limiting as it was, but then the stipulations were also underwhelming too. Only being able to put on either a tables match, extreme rules match, TLC match, or a Hell in a Cell match really limits the variety of your shows and, to be honest, makes the mode feel incomplete. There are so many more match stipulations and types that they could add, like, what about triple threats, fatal four-ways, six-mans, Ironmans, ladder matches? The game mode could be so much more in-depth. On that point as well, why can't we have more exciting pay-per-views like Elimination Chamber and the Royal Rumble? I get that they need to drastically alter the roster size for the latter, but you could just do smaller ones. Either way, there's definitely a way to make it work. A good way to do this is to merge your roster with the rivals roster, so you put your 10 best stars up against theirs. It's a 20-man rumble, and that way the rival has more influence on your run as well, as at the moment they're just kind of there. Aside from rumbles though, what is stopping the game mode from having an Elimination Chamber PPV? You only need 6 competitors to put the match on, and it would be way more exciting, as right now every PPV feels the exact same. You try and put all of your titles on the line in some sort of match that lines up with what the wrestlers themselves are good at. It's dull. Having more stipulations would help each show feel a little bit more individual, so you're not putting on the same matches week in, week out. Actually, while we're on this topic, rivalries also need a revamp. I actually really like the idea of these, but they're also a little bit limiting. Say you have a level 4 rivalry that you've been building for 4 weeks, ready for the pay-per-view, and your rival vetoes one of the people in it, you now can't get rid of that rivalry until the next PPV, you're just stuck with it. There needs to be a way to pay off a rivalry when that happens so that you can use the people in it elsewhere. Whether that's by being able to end the rivalry on a weekly show, or just cancel it whenever, it has to be possible. Rosters are already spread thin enough with the amount of budget that you have to sign wrestlers with, so having 2 of them written off like this is just unnecessary. I guess you can still use them, but they won't build any sort of meaningful rivalry until you get rid of the other one. That actually leads me nicely onto the next point, which is that we should be able to expand the mode way more. Of course, one of the main ways you could easily do this is by increasing the starting budget so you can have a bigger roster, but that might make the mode too easy in terms of dealing with stamina. What 2K needs to do is allow us to select much longer time periods to play for. So at the moment we only have 15, 25 and 50 week options, but why not 100? Why not 200? I'm not really sure why there's a limit at all, to be honest. You should be able to play the GM mode for as long as you want. Sure, this removes the competitive aspect of beating the other brand in the ratings, but if you still want to do this, you can just select one of the shorter duration options at the start. A lot of us want to build up a roster of superstars and play the mode with no time limit. That way we can actually get invested in the save. Imagine a MyGM playthrough where Kyle Slickman holds the WWE title for 6,789 days before retiring because he can barely even walk to the ring anymore. I want that, and you should too. No, but seriously, the game feels like a demo version at the moment, and if it was a demo version, I'd be extremely excited for the full release, but sadly it still needs a lot of work. A really easy way to implement longer durations is to alter the budget you receive for each option. So if you chose 15 weeks you get 2.75 million, 25 weeks you get 4 million, and so on. Then on top of that, you could alter the draft pool size as well, so you can choose from every superstar in the game if you're playing through without a time limit, which allows you to build a roster capable of putting on any pay-per-view you can think of. There's no way we should be limited to what sort of matches we can have because we simply don't have enough talent to do it. If you've run out of budget and can't afford it, then that's a different issue. You should have been more careful with your finances, but if you physically can't draft enough superstars to do it, then there's something seriously wrong there. The next thing I want to talk about is the class types that the game forces on you throughout. For anyone who doesn't know, in order to receive the best rating you can from a match, you're supposed to fight specific class types against each other. For example, bruisers are supposed to face fighters and giants should be up against cruisers. And if you don't adhere to these weird restrictions, you get punished with bad ratings and a talking to from Triple H. It makes absolutely zero sense. Throughout the history of wrestling, fans have loved watching 2 cruisers fight. Look at Ospreay vs Ricochet, or basically anything from 205 Live. Cruisers can have insanely good matches against one another, so it seems weird that 2K would limit us like this. It'd be much better if the class types only enhanced matches rather than be necessary for them to get a good rating. So if you pair a bruiser up with a cruiser, then their match will not be affected whatsoever, but if you put the bruiser against a fighter, it has a higher chance of leading to a 5-star match down the line. This is the same for the heel and face dynamics too, as a good face versus face matchup in real life is great. Now, I wouldn't want every match to be face versus face, as they do need that villain versus superhero theme for the story, but if done correctly, they can be amazing. Also, can we please have the option to change the superstars' alignment during a match? So if we then do put a face versus face, one of them can just turn heel? That's something that probably should be in the game already, so I'd like to see it in 2K23. One thing I will say is that I do like the idea of star power and popularity playing a part in the match ratings, as that's very much similar to how it is in real life, so I don't think that needs changing, but please stop restricting us on who we can put in matches together. The last thing I want to see is really simple. Just add more titles to the game mode. Why we aren't able to have an Intercontinental, United States, and Northern American title holder is beyond me. With the increased roster sizes, adding these in would make a huge difference to how engaging your mid-card fights are. At the moment, you only really care about the tag team belts and the solo ones. Every other match is just filler or for stamina. Being able to fill out weeks in between pay-per-views with these mid-card belts on the line would get me so much more invested in the mode. And it would also give the superstars you're not using as much a chance to gain some popularity and star power. Then you can progress them more naturally from a mid-carder into a main eventer, just like how it happens in real life. With how the rivalries currently work, you need to change who is competing for the main belt every 5 weeks. So being able to drop down the last person challenging for it into the United States title picture would make so much more sense than them just randomly becoming a throwaway match to fill out the card. It'd be a great way to maintain popularity and stamina whilst also making the mode feel much more immersive. And with the added longevity that I've suggested, you could craft long-term rivalries and storylines so much easier. I wouldn't say any of these suggestions are outrageous, besides maybe making the game go on for an infinite amount of time, but adding stuff like match types, belts, and new pay-per-views should be a given for 2K23. So what do you think? Is there anything I've missed out? Let us know in the comments below, and why not watch this other WWE 2K video while you're at it?